And guys, tonight I get the honor to talk to you guys. I'm going to talk to you guys about Jesus calling us the salt and the light. It's really interesting. He calls us that throughout the Bible, and I want to talk to you guys for a little bit about that. But first, I got a couple questions for you. So we got two options on these questions. First, when you think about your favorite snacks, right? The favorite snacks that you have, are you a salty or a sweet person? So raise your hand if you're salty. Salty, okay. So that's the Cheetos, the chips. All right, I got you. All right, now if you're my people and you're sweets, raise your hand. That's me all day. I'll kill a pack of Oreos, cookies, all of that, ice cream. That's me. That's my choice every time, salty or sweet. Okay, all right, one more for you guys. Right now, is your phone on light mode or dark mode? I don't even know if okay, is anyone's phone on light mode? Raise your hand. Okay, all right. Some of you guys, 100% brightness, light mode. Okay, where's on the dark mode, people? I don't know what it is. Every option, every app, every time I have the option for dark mode, I'm going dark mode. It's easier. It looks better, in my opinion. It looks better every single time. But Jesus calls us the salt and the light throughout the Bible so many times. And our key verse for today, and we're going to talk about it, is Matthew 5:13 through 16. Read the highlighted parts along with me, but Jesus says this: you are the salt of the earth. But if salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It's no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot. He also says, you are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden, neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on a stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine. All right, we'll go again. We'll run it back. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they might see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. I mean, guys, salt and light are two such important things in our world. Think about a world without salt. Like, you guys have you had a dish someone cooked for you and there was no salt, and you're like, can you pass the salt, please? Like, you're trying to be polite, but you really know, like, this is not good. They did not cook it with salt, so this is, all right. And then light. I mean, light is critical, right? Everything has to see, to operate, to move, has to operate through light. So Jesus uses this to describe us, me and you. We're the salt, we're the light. What does that mean? And we're going to talk about that today. This passage, for me, when I first read it, it has a sense of urgency to it. What does that mean? It means there's something we have to do with this, right? He's not just calling us this to be some mysterious example. There's a job and there's a task tied to that, and I want to help us discover that today. And the question I kind of seek out to answer is, we have a world today that's a little crazy, right? We see our social media, friends and family, things are going on, and the world can feel dark sometimes. And sometimes culture and entertainment can feel a little bit bland. But as Christians, how can we be the light in a dark world, and how can we be the flavor in a bland culture? That's the question I seek to answer for us today. Now, Jesus calls us to do these things. He calls us to be the life and the flavor and the light in our community. And the key thing that's similar between salt and light is they both stand out, and they're unique, right? Think about light, right? If in a dark room, we have several lights going on here, but light stands out. You can see a light. That's the whole point of it, right? It's a light. And same thing with salt. Salt stands out. You know when there's salt in certain dishes. And when Jesus uses the examples, the first main takeaway that I think we should understand is we should stand out. We should be unique, right? Culture has this idea that you should be an individual, but not too much of an individual, because you got to fall within these certain, things that culture says is okay. The Bible says the opposite. He calls us to be unique. God's given you gifts and talents and designs and a personality that's unique to you, and we should never lose that. Let's talk about salt first. So the first part of this verse, Matthew 13, again says, you are the salt of the earth. And then it's interesting, he says this, he says, but if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It's no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot. So what does he mean by that? You first have to understand how important salt was back in Jesus' time. So salt wasn't just used to season food, it was, but it was used for a couple other things. Salt was used as a medicine. So when people would cut themselves and have a wound, they would put salt on it and it would help kill the bacteria and heal the wound faster. It was also used to preserve food. So we have technology today and things to do that. But back in the day, they would use salt to keep the food and last longer. And then, of course, they would use it to season their food. So Jesus, in this passage, he's telling the disciples and he's telling us to not lose their saltiness. That's the purpose of us as Christians, to be unique. And he's using the example here is, man, imagine if salt had no flavor. What would be the point of it? What would we use salt for? It would be a wasted spice or a wasted substance that we would just throw out, right? We'd throw it out on the ground and trample it on our feet is how the Bible talks about it. Maybe you've had like a food or a snack before that's just gone stale or bad, and you're like, this is no good anymore. You immediately throw it away. And Jesus is trying to make a point here for us, guys, that as Christians, we need to stand out. That's our purpose. It's not to lose our flavor. It's not to be bland. It's not to lose that boldness, but to stand out with a uniqueness like salt. Another thing that Jesus references in this passage is how he wants us to have an impact on the world like salt does, right? So salt is such an important mineral. And the thing about salt, what's really unique about it is it doesn't, salt, unless you put a ton of it, which hopefully you don't do that either. Salt has a way in cooking, at least, I'm learning how to cook, to bring out the best flavors in food. It's not like you put salt on it and it's like all salt, right? There's a story I want to tell you guys here really quick. When I was in middle school, I had all my cousins over my house, right? And I'm like the middle of like 6 or 7 of my dad's side cousins, right? So I was in maybe middle school at this time. All my cousins are over the house. My mom makes us dinner, and one of the dishes was fries. She makes us a big pan of fries. And then she puts this big bottle of Cajun seasoning. Is anyone a fan of Cajun fries? She puts this huge bottle of Cajun seasoning right in the middle of the table. And I'm in middle school, and I'm like, okay. You know, when you're in middle school, you're like trying to figure yourself out. You want to impress everyone around you. You want to be cool. So I grab that bottle. And my mom warns us as she puts the bottle down. She's like, hey, guys, this is a little spicy. It tastes great, but don't put too much on your food. And I grab that bottle and trying to impress all my cousins. I just layer it all over my fries. Just cover them in Cajun seasoning. And then me trying to be cool and trying to impress, I start eating the fries. And I'm like, it tastes terrible at this point. Like, it's just all seasoning. But I'm eating the fries. I'm like, no, I'm good. It's not even that spicy. Like, I'm cool. Like, I'm good. This is middle school Josiah, right? And then I eat the fries. And then we go outside immediately after dinner. All my cousins are here. We go out and play basketball, like right after dinner. Right after. And I've never felt like this in my whole life. My throat completely closed up. My chest dropped down to the bottom of my stomach, and I couldn't breathe. I literally couldn't breathe for the first time in my life. And I'm freaking out. I'm like, Mom, Dad, I can't breathe. What do we do? I got to go to the hospital. And my mom and my dad, as loving parents, they take me inside. They care for me, and obviously I'm okay today. But here's the thing, guys. I completely misused that Cajun seasoning. I dumped it all over, and it just became like suffocating to me. And today, in today's world, culture, I'm not anti-culture. I'm not against culture. The Bible tells us to be a part of this world, just not of it. But culture can be suffocating. If we spend too much time in things of this world, in our social media, in entertainment, it can become something that just suffocates us. The Bible gives us separate directions as salt of how to impact culture. Right here in Romans 12:21, it says this: do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. I talked about this just a moment ago, but here's the thing that's unique about salt. When you put it on items and you know how to cook, it brings flavor out. When you add salt to a certain meats, it doesn't taste salty, just salty. It brings the flavor out of the meat. Or if you add salt to fries, you should be tasting the potato and the oil and all the goodness of that dish too. As Christians, God's made us all so uniquely that as salt, and another aspect of what Jesus is commanding here is to bring flavor in the world in our unique way. So God's given you a gift, a talent, and ability, and it's to bring a flavor to the world that in a way that I can't, right? Some of you guys are athletes. Some of you guys are artists. Some of you guys are gamers. Some of you guys are going to go to medicine and so many different gifts and talents. The point is not to all act the same and impact culture in the same way. That's not the point. The point is to be salt of the world, to bring flavor in the unique way that God has for us. So we can look up to people. We can look up to our leaders. We can look up to Pastor Caleb. But the point of salt in cooking even is to bring out the unique flavors, the same way that God is encouraging us to go to our world, go to the things that we're good at and bring flavor to those places. The key ingredient, and Jesus really is the example for both salt and light that we're going to continue to talk about, is Jesus. How can I add Jesus to my school? How can I add Jesus to my job, to my family, to my friends? Not to be weird or spooky or push people away, but how can I add that into culture and impact culture and bring flavor into this conversation or this community? That's Jesus' command, another aspect of salt and Jesus' command with that. Salt can keep going into many, many layers, but for the sake of time, we'll move on to the second part of Jesus' command, which is light. So he called us salt in the first part of the verse, and he moves on in that Matthew 5, and he says, you are the light of the world. It's interesting. He continues on to give another example. He says, a town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on a stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. So, guys, light obviously is so important in our world, but let me try to make this a little bit more tangible for you guys. I'm going to ask everyone to close your eyes, right? Close your eyes real tight. No peeking. Think about the world, right, like this. Imagine this was your world. You had no light. It was just darkness. Think about how many different things that would change about your life. You wouldn't be able to see where you're going, or you probably couldn't do all the things that you like to do now, and you might consider it a little bit unsafe and dangerous to move around and operate like you do currently. Not literally, but there are people in our world today, guys, that are not walking around with their eyes closed, but this is how they feel in their emotion, in their mind, in their hearts. You can open your eyes now. People feel dark and they feel lost. They feel no hope. They don't have a way forward. They don't have the Jesus that we do, that we can wake up each morning with this hope and this joy that we have. And our job as the light is to point towards Jesus and to be that hope. There's so many aspects of it, but I only have time for a few, so let's talk about it. The verse in Matthew talked about putting the light on a hill or on a lamp or a stand to light the whole room. I remember me and Justin used to live in this apartment complex, a little older apartment complex. I think Julie and Anna live there now, funny enough. But here's the thing. This apartment was old in design. It didn't have any ceiling lights in the whole apartment. Like, right? And that's what I'm saying. It's like, who made this? There's no lights. So we had to buy several lamps to light the apartment. So you would walk into a room, and if you couldn't get to your lamp, it was dark. So you're pulling out your phone, and you're trying to find the switch, and I don't know why it was like that, but it was absolutely, but here's the thing. The verse is what it's trying to get at here is the light is supposed to stand out. It's supposed to be there. It's supposed to be in the center of the room and bright, right? I like the way that Isaiah 61 says it. He says it like, the verse says it like this. Arise and shine, for your light has come. The glory of the Lord has risen among you. The verse even in Matthew says this, don't put your light under a bowl. It's not meant to be hidden. For me, what my takeaway for this is, as Christians, as believers, we should stand out. We should be different. People should know that we're Christians. I battled for a long time being a secret Christian. It wasn't probably even until maybe my last few years of high school that I was public and proud of my faith. And that was a challenge of me, even as a pastor's kid, constantly battling that. Am I cool? Am I this? And my identity. There's the same struggles that you may be going through now. But I want to encourage you. Jesus' command here and the confidence that you can have in your faith, you can be a light. You can stand out. You can engage with people. You can engage with culture and still be a proud believer and stand out like Jesus says this here in Matthew. Now, here's another aspect of this that I think is interesting about light. John 1:5 says it this way, the light shines in darkness and the darkness has not overcome it. Even science understands light in this way, for any of my science guys or girls. You cannot add darkness to light. You can't. There's no way. But you can add light to darkness, right? So I'll have the media team help me here. So AJ, I think you're doing lights today, right? Can you add some darkness to our stage here? Just can add a little bit of darkness. Can you do that? No? Okay. I'm using it to take a point. There's no way, right? You can't add darkness. He doesn't have a switch on his computer back there. It's like, add dark level 2. Like, no, it's not a thing. But if I said, hey, AJ, could you turn off our lights? Could you cover our lights? Boom, immediately. And this is kind of what the verse is referring to here, guys. With us covering our light, right? Or if we're saying we're the secret Christian or the closet Christian or whatever it is, you can hide the light. You absolutely can, as AJ just did for all of us here. But we can also, AJ, go ahead and hit the lights again. We can also shine our light. We can also be the light. We can add light to dark situations. Darkness cannot be added to light, but light can be added to darkness. It's a scientific fact, but it's also a truth for us to understand today, guys. There's a dark world out there. There is. But here's the thing, it's not without hope. We're the hope. We're the light. We can go into our schools and make impact. We can go into our job and make impact. We can go to our families, our friends, and make impact. And that's what Jesus calls us to be as the light. John 8:12 is another verse here that really kind of drives all this home for me. This is Jesus talking. He says, when Jesus spoke again to the people, he said, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. So this is Jesus saying, not only should you be the salt, not only should you be the light, but I'm the light of the world. I'm the light of the world. And as Christians, our whole goal is to be more like Jesus, to follow Jesus, right? And you might be at this point and be like, okay, Josiah, I'm following you. I get it. It's metaphorical. Like we should be salt and light. How do I actually like apply this to my week tomorrow, to school, to friends, to family, right? Pastor Caleb talked about two key things last week, and I really want to reiterate them and drive them home today. The first was inviting people to church, right? We did that all last month for Tribal Wars. We did it for points and for our teams and all that. But guys, inviting people to church is such a powerful thing, especially when you have relationships with your friends. Maybe they're going through hard times. Maybe they're having the best of times. But building up the courage to invite someone to church is an easy way that we can be the light in our culture. Another is the Bible. I know it sounds cliche. It sounds like the easy answer. But as the Devo plan we have on the screens there, and as we did all last month in Tribal Wars, God, the Bible is a great way to be more like Jesus, which helps us be the light of the world. It says it right here in Psalms 119, 105. This verse says, your word, talking about our Bible, is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. This is literally telling us that the Bible, for us as believers, is our guide. It's our way towards Jesus. This is how we become more like Jesus, who's the light of the world. So I would encourage you guys, if we're looking for a way, how do I become more of a light? How do I become more of salt and impact culture? Read our Bible. Inviting people to church are two very, very easy ways to do that. I'm going to begin to close here, and if you got nothing else out of today, I want you to think about this question. Because what's the purpose, right? So Jesus asks us, or tells us, let's be the salt, let's be the light. What's the purpose of that? Why should we be the salt? Why should we be the light? What is our takeaway, our one big thing for today? In Acts 13:47, it says this, for this the Lord has commanded us. I have made you a light for the Gentiles, or for us today, let's say, that you may bring salvation to the ends of the earth. And that's it, guys. That's our mission. I'll put it this way. Jesus calls us to participate in God's mission to redeem and restore all of creation by being salt and light. Jesus made you a part of his plan, we'll say it the free life way, to help others discover and live the free life in Christ. You're part of God's plan. That's it. That's what the salt and the light is for. We're here on purpose to help others discover the same freedom that we have in Jesus. I'm going to begin to close with a story here. I'm going to ask everyone to stand. I haven't told very many people this story, but back in high school, I was a part of a club called FCA, and several of you guys are in our Gibson FCA now. And our FCA looked very, very, very different than the FCA we do. Our FCA was a few times a year. We'd go to the gym. There's a couple hundred students that would sit up in the bleachers. We played games. We talked about Jesus for a little bit, right? That was our FCA. And I was part of the team that helped put that on in high school. But around Easter time, we decided to do a skit or a production of the story of Jesus' crucifixion to talk about the salvation story. And I don't know why, but I was selected to play Jesus in the play. So, yeah, imagine that in high school, being Jesus in front of your whole school. And I remember, and I get nervous and emotional even thinking about it now, but I remember standing there in front of all of my classmates on a cross with my arms tired. And I remember thinking, wow, everyone knows now. I can't hide it anymore. I was a secret Christian through all of high school. all of middle school, but they know now. They all know. And I remember thinking about this and all these emotions and all these things running through my head. But here's the thing, guys, and this is why I tell you this story. Not, wow, look at me. None of that. This is why I tell you this story. The freedom that I had leaving that play, and several students gave their life to Jesus, glory to God. But here's the thing. I was able to walk around free as a Christian on my campus from that point forward. I didn't have to hide it anymore. I didn't have to try to be cool. It was it. It was it. It changed everything for me. And obviously I'm getting emotional now, but here's the thing. I want you guys to have that same freedom. I want you to have that same freedom in your faith. I really, really do. And that moment in my high school life, I wish it happened for me earlier. And I really hope that you guys find a moment not like that. I don't need you to be in a skit and be Jesus in front of your whole school. That is not necessarily the way I hope it happened to you. But I hope that even tonight we find some confidence in our faith, that we can be bold about it. We can be the salt. We can be the light. We can be the thing that impacts our culture. And be proud about it. So let's bow our heads and let's pray these commands over us. So God, thank you for your word, God. Your word that's so clear, that calls us the salt, the thing to bring flavor to our world and to our culture, God. Thank you for your command that we should be the light, God. Help us to be the light in dark places. Help us to bring love and joy and hope and compassion into the world, God. And then, God, I pray that as we do this, God, that we complete your command, which is to help others discover you, God. That we can help others. We can just simply be a mirror that points to you and points to salvation, God. And then, God, I pray for everyone here in this room, God. God, that we can be proud of our faith. God, if any student is struggling with, man, I don't want anyone to find out about me as a Christian, God, I pray that you give them a confidence and a boldness to walk out of here and be proud of who they are, God. That they can talk to their friends. They can talk to their family about Jesus, God. That you give them the words to say and the confidence of Christ as they walk out of here, God. God, thank you for all of your blessings, God. Thank you for the sacrifice your son made. And we ask all these things in your son's name. Amen.